discussion. The cost of food in Uganda has increased 7.70% in August 2023 over the same month in the period more than a year. For this, more recently, increased transportation costs following deteriorating road conditions, especially in rural areas, have put additional upward pressure on prices and causing financial burden to the buyers. The question is, and a lot that has been birthed on the causes and the likely solutions that ought to be configured. David Kabanda is the Executive Director at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. A very warm welcome to the program, Mr. Kabanda.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing?
I'm very fine.
Food, and then the cost of food. These two aspects stand alone, yet act together at any one time. Availability of food can either lead to price hikes or decrease, depending on the context and where you are.
Yeah.
Some people may assume that availability of food on the market should automatically translate into reduced prices.
Yeah.
And then they keep wondering why, given abundancy, prices still stay up. And then there is a season where we don't have a lot of food coming into from the feeder regions, but it stays relatively low. The fundamentals of economics could be at play. We shall be delving into that. But there is a headline on food carried by the Daily Monitor, and I would love to pick your 2 cents on that. The National Drug Authority knew that dealers in poultry and everyone else that's looking after animals are using ARVs to fatten animals and birds in order to gain. The morality of it is sickening, but NDA accepting that it has known this for more than 10 years and hasn't acted.
You see, I'm starting off at a very, I don't want to call it wrong, standpoint, but I think it points to a very deep, issue that we've been talking about in this country. Chris, Uganda is the only country in the world that does not have a food authority. And that one is not only dangerous, but illegal. You cannot have a country where you do not have a food authority. And this, you see, we are talking about trade liberalization, forces of demand and supply. They are critical sectors in any country where the government must not put off its hands. So for the NDA, National Drug Authority, to, they regulate, whoever goes to the pharmacy, so long as the medicine is, the medicine is not outdated or what, someone will buy. So
That's
this
right.
is why they feel like their hands are off the food. Food is not our sector to regulate. And in fact, we've been working on a law. We wanted to have the National Drug and Food Amendment such that we introduce the food component. They said, no, we don't want that. It is, for us, it is the medicines. But your drugs are going into the food and it's going to be coming back to you. Nobody is safe till when everyone is safe. So this one is pointing to a very deep failure, omission, and refuse on the part of government to look at this critical sector called food. And I don't know why they are playing around with it. I don't know why they have chosen to consider it as a lesser issue. It is going to kill many people, and many people are dying. I'm going to be telling you too much around what you call food security or insecurity, and you see, it is multidimensional, but it all comes back to food governance. It all comes back to food regulation. Who is regulating who, when, and how is critical in this discussion.
Looking at the gloom that story or development brings to anybody else who might want to pay attention, when you consider the amount of chicken that is consumed on a daily basis in urban centers, right from the roadside chicken to restaurants and the high-end hotels. On a daily, I don't have statistics right now, but my guess is that it's huge volumes of chicken on a daily basis. Some of these meats, when you look at the chicken itself as it's being prepared before the roasting, the color, you're like, hey, this is basically white. Okay. Because when you look at how the chicken looks in terms of color, when you're in Butaleja, it's a little bit brownish. And there is that exotic look to it. And then you come and you see chicken as white as pepper. Somebody will tell you, hey, that is now the non-indigenous chicken. So it actually can be white. But it doesn't look good. Now, if we are consuming it on a daily basis in such quantities and it has these drugs laced in there, the cancers that are within the society are untold. Where do we move from here? Because I'm sure no one is going to resign at the National Drug Authority.
It isn't in our culture. They'll carry on.
They will be promoted.
They'll be promoted even. Yeah, but you see, our food system is sick, contaminated, and everything, call it. We have agrochemicals coming into this country, and people are using them the way they want. You talk about acaricides, talk about antibiotics. Now, for people are talking about ARVs. But let me tell you, Chris, I was once a poultry farmer, and I closed a big project. If I tell you it was big, I mean it. And do you know how it happened? We spent like a month in my own house, and there were no eggs. As the father of the home, I confronted my wife. I was like, but you, lady, we have a poultry farm.
How can
Do you
there
expect
be no
me
eggs?
to put money on the table such that you give us those eggs? Because we're running it as a business. She kept quiet. After 3 days, she brought me 3 packets of drugs that they use in the poultry. And she showed me, the first one she showed me indicated that after using that drug, you do not eat the birds or the eggs for 7 days. She brought another packet and 14 days, and another one had 21 days. And then I asked her, then that one was a span of over like a month and 15 days. Then I asked her, okay, where did you put the eggs? She told me, where was I supposed to put them? You know the business. If you see a tray of eggs, you have like 5 eggs on that tray. They must feed on those eggs. I sold them. I was like, okay, we couldn't eat these eggs in this house, but
You sold
another
them.
house, another household, other people's children ate the eggs. Secondly, we had like the broiler business, but the broiler business thrives on chemicals. We do not have a farm gate policy in Uganda. You said that you don't have statistics on the amount of chicken or poultry products that
But
we
I have
eat in
the
Uganda.
I have the general picture.
But I'm telling you, if you ask the government doesn't also have them. Do you know why? They can't. Whatever they have as statistics is a lie. Do you know why? Every farmer in Uganda is like a veterinary officer. If I woke up and I started a poultry business, will the government know? They don't know. In 1 month, I'll be taking to the market. People inject these birds before they even bring them to the market, because they know the moment they put the birds kia 1 month, people will just quickly buy and slaughter and put on the market. So it is that deep, dangerous, and if every Ugandan knew, they would actually stop eating chicken from markets in Uganda. Nobody should. I can't visit your home and I eat chicken. I can't even eat eggs in
You
your home.
don't say.
Yeah, because I know the practice. I know if you love me, Chris, when I visit you, you'll go to that market. I have supplied the market before. I know what I was doing on the farm. But people just eat. And people are going to die continuously. We are talking about building families and legacies, but these legacies are going to collapse on us because we are eating poison in small amounts, in small quantities, but you are sure you are going to die consistently every day, in the morning, lunchtime, evening tea, supper. So the accumulation of these contaminants will one time catch up with you, whether you like it or not, and no one is safe. Whether the minister, but the president is safe. One time I saw him showing us his cup. There is a reason why President Museveni is showing you that cup. He said it openly. One time he was castigating Europe. And was like, I can't eat pineapples here. Why do you think he's doing that? He's working with his cup. Why? And he said, in this cup, you'll not find alcohol. You'll not find what? You'll find millet. From my own village. Why is he doing that? Why are... You see, now maybe you are pushing me into this debate.
Please,
Father.
You keep on it, keep on it, keep on it.
For a very long time, you have to understand the food industry globally. You understand? This is intentional. The seed industry, the food industry lied to our governments. That you see, you leave all the agricultural practices, convince your people, or allow us to convince them that monocultures using synthetic fertilizers, synthetic chemicals is the way to go. Since 1960s, by the way, you've heard about the Green Revolution.
That's right.
Before we knew it, proliferation of chemicals on the market. If you read this story in Daily Monitor about NDA, someone is talking about profit. You understand?
I do.
Profit.
I do.
So people have been now told, you see, in agriculture, for you to make profit, and you see everyone is in agriculture almost in Uganda. When I say everyone, they are talking about 70–80%. But even us who are into salaried employment, our side hustles are always in agriculture.
In agriculture, yeah.
Did you see what Senior Kavshenga put on his tweet yesterday about his banana plantation?
I didn't follow.
Let me tell you, he has a very big banana, plantation.
That's right.
But it is now all damaged. Where did he get the suckers is the problem. The people who are leading us as agencies, NARO and others, are misleading us. And I don't fear to be on a national TV. And I tell Ugandans that you are being deceived, you are being misled. Do you know that Uganda has lost soil? The degraded soil in Uganda is 18%, affecting 15% of the population in this country. And why is it happening? It's because every time we are spraying, I have a documentary that I've worked on. I'll send you the link, you'll look at it.
Sure.
Farmers in Uganda testifying, we are spraying, but we do not understand what we are spraying with. Nobody understands. It is in the language they don't understand. We are spraying, and we have killed the biodiversity. That's where we are starting from. You are talking about increased prices of food. They can't go low, and it is going to continue because we have degraded the soil, and increasingly, and when we are talking about these issues, some government people and others brush us off as activists. You understand?
They claim, and some might be right, you're also trying to put food on the table.
Well, that can be part of the equation, but I mean what I say. I'm bringing statistics. Some of the statistics are from the government, bureau, statistics house to show. Now, Chris, I want to demonstrate this further. If you have farmers in Uganda who have been misled that every time you have to plant something, you must spray it, there is a danger. Because you are not only killing yourself as a person, because they don't even use protective gear, they even don't know what they are spraying. They use all sorts of concoctions. Someone uses a herbicide with a pesticide, with a fungicide, adds it together and they spray. You understand? Killing all the ecosystem that is supposed to be supporting plant growth. You understand? That it's supposed to be supporting the environment. So someone is spraying, and this soil, if you asked farmers in Uganda, the soil is getting hardened, the soil is not productive anymore. Where do you expect people to get food? Why you are talking about prices? Today, you go to the deepest of the village, and someone in the village is buying food. Why? Do you know that we have some people, relatives in the village, who will ask you, as you come, please come with kaunga. Come with... When did we start this? Till when leaders... You see, the problem is the ordinary person looks at a politician. A politician is a wealthy person, at least by Ugandan standards. This is what we know. They look at scientists, the people who have gone to school. They look like they have money, although that needs to be probed further. They look at us, and us I mean the corporate people. But I'm telling you, Ugandans are poor. You understand? And the ordinary farmer, when they listen, they have now to listen to the politician, they have now to listen to a lawyer, they have to listen to the scientists, but the scientists have also been deceived, or they want to get quick money. And the food industry globally, you know, it is putting them on a treadmill that run like this, run like this. They are lying to us.
Going into a market across the city, suburbs and metropolitan areas, you find an orange that doesn't have seeds. That's an anomaly. There are apples that don't rot if you leave them for a week.
Yeah, they will not.
They won't rot, and somehow...
Even tomatoes. Some tomatoes.
And that perturbs me. Maybe you can enlighten me. What's happening with these oranges and the tomatoes?
This is it. Ugandans who care to listen, kindly listen to what I'm going to be telling you. Okay. We have sold our sovereignty. Our seed sovereignty, our food sovereignty. How? There is a global big seed industry, and it is already here. Seed, I mean seed. One time, like three months ago, the Prime Minister of this country, Honorable Nabanja, appeared in Parliament, and she was decrying that the farmers do not have seeds, because they have been getting seeds from Operation Wealth Creation, the NADS things. Let me call them things because they don't mean anything anyway. Now, what happened when they brought the PDM? They told the farmers that, do you know what? All the money that was supposed to go to NADS, to Operation Wealth Creation, has now gone to NADS. And now Nabanja is telling Parliament that, you guys, what are we going to do? People do not have seeds. There has been a very consistent, intentional break of the seed system in this country. And many people are now seed insecure. People do not have seeds. People do not have... you don't even talk about seed inequality. We are now talking about seed poverty. People do not have seed because their community seed system that used to be resilient and sustainable has been broken down. How? We have now agencies like NARO and others, including private seed companies. Do you know that Simlo Seeds is not a Ugandan seed company, and yet it is the dominant seed company here?
I know.
They bring seeds, and you see they have now again lied to farmers that you can only do business in agriculture with either hybrid seeds, and before you know it, we have GMOs here. You understand? As products and as seeds. Of course, we do not have a law. And
I've seen a mango tree that sprouts as many as 30 mangoes before it turns 3 feet high.
That is dangerous. Have you seen the guavas that have been introduced? The moment you plant them, you must maintain them on chemicals. If you don't, they all rot. Every fruit that comes up rots. You understand? And this is going to be dangerous to all of us. It's going to be, you see, when they introduce hybrids, it means that your indigenous seeds are going to die out. Because these ones are going to contaminate your gardens and nobody is going to compensate you. Before you know it, we are going to be slaves to these seed companies globally, and we do not see the players. The beneficiaries are in the US. They are just laughing. You have a failed commander who comes to you to convince you that, you see, don't use that seed. Use this fertilizer. Use this chemical. It is like a game. They play you in the field. Before you know it, everyone, I'm telling you, is not going to be safe in this country. And I'm not just being an alarmist. Whatever I'm talking about, you all know.
David Kabanda, Executive Director, the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. Allow me transition the conversation into the price of food, the prices of foods proper, like we were supposed to start. People are concerned. They don't have money in their pockets and the food is expensive. And they're wondering what's going to happen next. First and foremost, what's bringing about the high price of basic food across the markets? Are we failing to bring the food from the farms, or are those that bringing these foods from the farms are simply recouing their costs?
Well, first of all, we had not a very bad harvest, but a minimal. So we did not get a bumper harvest.
All right.
That's number one. Then number two, there has been a liberalization of food. And number three, there has been a breakdown on food diversity. So what is happening, many people are now going into growing one crop. You find a farmer is growing maize. So people are going now to suffer. The food prices are going to continue. By the way, do you know, Chris, that we are keeping quiet here, or we are talking, of course, here, but 40% of Ugandans are food insecure. 40%. That should worry this government, because if people do not have food, you will never be stable politically. It is a strong statement. If you have 40% of Ugandans going to bed hungry, you would be concerned. You shouldn't continue dealing with this issue as business as usual. You should be able now to come in, and we've been talking to government. In the 1995 Constitution, they have a constitutional obligation to establish what we call a national food reserve system. We had food reserves in those regimes, but when this regime came, they sold them. The 1995 Constitution requires them to set them up, to check on the prices. If you have many people who cannot afford, it should be a government reserve system that helps them out.
David Kabanda, Executive Director, the Center for Food and Adequate Rights. Thanks for the perspective. I wanted us to delve deeply into the price of food, but that particular topic was overtaken by events and the developments at the National Drug Authority. We shall continue to ask that heads must roll. This is the latest in a series of taking the nation for granted on the part of public service officials who think they can act at the wanton, the way they want, because they think in a certain particular way. Right now, the population is at risk. Food is contaminated deliberately by those that seek to make money. I'll be right back.
You're watching Morning at NTV.